All right, Lieutenant Governor is my favorite spot. Technology, right? So I've been participating in all the government efforts in technology, and there have been a lot during your administration for a variety of reasons. But I know one of the reasons I supported you is because you talked about decisioning with data, and that was very important to me in the industry that I was in because I was transacting based on data that I was pulling from the government. And so over the last several years, I've seen a concerted effort to get that data organized, but I also see some serious challenges, right? Just in terms of adoption of the systems that you build, you spend millions of dollars, but if your frontline workers aren't adopting the tool, how do we move forward? And I'm in an industry where we're guilty of that, and I play in an industry where there's been no real innovation since 1970. That's construction, right? So. How do you, as the leader of a place that is so paper-based, push, drag, move us forward into that new area? And what kind of things are you looking at to solve problems in terms of technology on the government side?
Already in the baseline, when you adopt technology across any business line, there's a lot of, it is very difficult. It's one of the most difficult things. And by the way, for people that once you successfully implement a new software system, guess what? The software developers created something else, right? So it's constantly in flux. And one of the errors I've seen in the past, even from experience, I mean, when I was the administrator of the court, we implemented a new system. We went from a legacy system into an enterprise, which means you're moving from, you're moving major into technology. But if you don't take people along with it, there's problems. Already people are resistant to change because they're uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. The opportunities, though, is that our workplace is changing rapidly.
Yes.
So there are, of course, younger people and some older people are into technology and they embrace it. Some people are scared of it. And some people, they just need to be educated about, where all the safeguards are. People think that when things get digitized, somebody's going to be manipulating. And you have to show them, kind of all the ways that things you're doing to prevent that, right?
Sure.
That's part of it. But you also have to show people that with manual documentation, there's a lot of errors. Mm-hmm. In fact, today there's a public auditor just talked about, issued a report kind of recognizing that even at customs, because, he's looking at alcohol coming in, because everything is still manual. It's hard for them to really look rapidly in the big picture to understand what is actually coming in and whether or not people are paying the proper taxes. On this front, I think that we've been doing a lot of data analysis, and I want to give recognition to Matt Santos over at Bureau of Planning, who is the deputy director. That's been kind of one of our leads. He's been helping me kind of analyze how long it's been taking for land use applications and EPA, and that's helping me understand, well, where do the resources need to go?
Sure.
If we're going to have additional manpower, it needs to be places that need to pick up the speed, right? So those are the kind of data points I'm looking at, trying to figure out how to assign resources. And then, I feel like I might be on my fourth mystery already, and it's only 5 mysteries in the rosary. But I worked hard to secure some funds to get a online building permit software, and I announced this a few years ago, and I'm just now finishing my. It's almost kind of like we're putting to rest the death of the first procurement because of protests and all sorts of things,
Sure.
So we deal with it too,
mm-hmm.
right? But, when we're able to, I'm trying to push for concurrent online submissions of building permits and development applications so that it's not sequential, which it had been.
Sure.
Everybody gets the application at the same time. All the multiple different agencies are working on their parts, and so we can cut time. But then that also is going to flesh out for me who's taking longer to process or review than others. That tells me, so when people say you need more people at EPA, okay, well, which section? Air, water? I mean, where am I supposed to? And when people look at me, well, I'm not sure. I need to know. That's where the data comes in.
Yeah,
But I think the other part is we got to, there's certain concepts. In the beginning, when I was at the court, I was totally resisting the cloud. I thought, no, the cloud.
that was you?
Well, no, I mean, then I got educated. DOD and the banks are embracing the cloud. You better go along with it. I mean, the reason why they're moving to the cloud is an efficiency thing. It costs less to have servers, right? And then you'll be able to access your data anywhere, right, within your parameters. Mm-hmm. We need to move things along. I know land records is one area that I think there's been it's kind of like we've seen success and letdowns even with that, right? But I'm a big proponent of just embracing the modernization. And I think part of it is you prove to the employees that they'll be able to do their jobs faster. And sometimes, employees feel there's a backlog on them and they feel compounded. You gotta you need to show them what's the future, and then, they'll be part of it. They'll be part of it.
Sure, and I get it. And this is where your point about the cycle, your procurement cycle. As soon as you build something, it's old.
Right.
And so the way government procurement works, it doesn't work in technology. That's why I think public-private partnerships in technology are important. But the point I really want to make here is the government's data policy needs to change, I think the problem is we're so application-focused. Build me the application to fix this problem. But if we just had the data, all we need to do is organize the data in a specific way, and it'll tell us everything that we need to know. So if we had the policy to control the government data versus having the application provider control the data, because what happens is you get held hostage by the application provider.
You have to pay for reports and all that kind of stuff, which, by the way, is the business. That's the MO of all software across.
No, 100%.
But you're right. I think you're saying that there's a pathway to empower ourselves.
And that's why Matt is one of my favorite people in the government, is because not only does he aggregate that data, he asks why. And so one of the things that people don't do enough here is ask why. And also one of the reasons people don't want to make the data available is because they want to act as the gatekeeper and leverage the data. And so even government agencies, to a degree, want to be able to keep, retain, and monetize that data, but you're not good at it, right? That's the thing. You're good at government process, but you're not good at building software applications.
That's true. I think the other thing that I see a lot, that there's still, it's like a total work in progress, and I think it will always be because of what the nature of government is. We set up procedures and regulations for specific situations and specific points in time. And when you ask the question like, Matt, why, or what do you need it for, you kind of realize, why, I guess I didn't need to collect that. Yeah. It's, we're doing things based on a point in time. That's one of the areas I see across the board that constantly needs to be looked at. Because people, when they don't question why, then it's kind of like when I talked about bringing the employees along, they need to figure out where they fit into the equation. So, over at Rev and Tax, when you're doing the BPT, even a basic person if they're going to be scanning documents for a period of time, trying to catch up, now that things are moving in the modernization, they need the reason why you're doing this is we're going to be able to finally understand how much of our revenue is coming from this, or, this is going to help you figure out in your job how to reconcile for the taxpayer what they need to pay.
Sure.
This is going to eliminate a week of your work, and you'll be able to catch up on your backlog, right? I think I'm more optimistic that we're going to get there more rapidly now because of the innovations I'm seeing in the foundation of government, knowing that there's a lot more to happen, but I also see it because of the change in the generations of the workforce. And, the reality is that we have people coming into the workspace that, they use social media to solve problems and to communicate with people. A lot of people, older generations in the workplace, get irritated by that. You have to figure out and see those as positive attributes, figure out how it works for you. But the fact is that there's a lot of innovation individually that people are bringing to the table. And if you have good parameters and allow them, empower the employees to be able to participate to help make things better, I think that we can pick up time.
Sure.
But I think your point about, data policy, that's a point well taken. I'll look into that.
And it's the transparency too, because again, like at a construction roundtable recently, one of the things that was asked for one of the agencies, a federal agency that may not exist, but but anyways, like can I see the parameters by which my project is underwritten? And the answer was, I don't have the authority to give that to you, right?
They're famous for that.
Right, but why?
Yeah.
And so why can't we see the decisions that we're being judged against, and
Sure.
why can't we have a discussion about that? And that's what data transparency is. And so if you control the data and it's out there, everyone has the same answer. It's really hard. And also it allows for greater automation. And that's what you really want.
Yeah.
You want to automate. GPA is an excellent example of like how RPA
Sure.
can really like transform an agency. And look at them. They're like, the telecoms are impressed by their GIS system, right?
No, they have the best.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
right? So kudos to that's the way technology works in a government agency.
J.R. Gumatauto, that's the star
Sorry,
over
JR.
there. But what I was going to say is that the opportunities here, even in GovGuam, right? Matt, for example, has been overlaying. He's been overlaying different things. So, even at the SHPO, I mean, if you're digitizing, if we already did 3 archaeological surveys over a piece of property, why are we going to order a 4th one? Right. There's a way and a method to overlay those things. So for the developer, they can already empower themselves. Hey, by the way, this piece of property that you're having has these burials. You may want to design your project on this side of the property, or, everybody is transparent. Be aware this is going to mean this is going to what you're going to have to do to develop this part of the property. Same thing with infrastructure. And now maybe I know we're running out of time, but even for me, right, when I'm looking at telecom, right, we got a lot of broadband infrastructure coming, investment coming. If areas have been previously touched already, previously dug, why are we going to pretend that it's like we're starting all over at scratch? We have to recognize these are already previously disturbed, which means this is a preferred pathway to lay the infrastructure,
Sure.
And we can do it faster. That's where the digitization and modernization can help us pick up time, and also let us be able to make the improvements that benefit everybody, right? And bring down the cost of things.
And so the last point I kind of want to make on that in terms of government agencies and their motives, right? Everybody there wants to do a good job, I believe. Well, okay, not everybody, right? I mean, that's the workplace
Most people
problem,
want to do a
right?
good job.
But most people just intrinsically want to do
Sure.
a good job, right? But so I've gone there and personally asked for things, and they've wanted to give it to me, but they couldn't find it in the data structure. I can't find where these files are because I don't know where the root file is. I know it shows up on my system, but I can't share it with you, right? And so that's the issue.
I have to call my contractor and pay him, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And so that's why I talk about data policy.
Sure.
If you control the data, if you organize the data, if you empower Matt to create like this big behemoth data, and then you go to the application provider and say, here's these data sets, build me this tool that tells me X, Y, Z, done, all day, versus DRT builds theirs and DLM builds theirs and GPA builds theirs. But if you just aggregate and leverage the data as a whole, you have good data policy, you will have no problems. And there's 100% accountability behind that. So please, that's if you take away one thing from this podcast today, eliminate the gatekeepers and open up the data for everybody. I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper here. We want to use this data for you and to benefit you and to protect you. So we just want it out there. Everyone can take a look at it. They can put their spin on it, but make it available and collect it.
I agree.
Thank you. All right.
No, that's consistent with the things I want to do. Not only while I continue what my responsibilities are, But that's some of the things that I'll be looking at into the future with the leadership I'm going to be providing people.
And that's why you have my support.
Thank you.
Thank you.